Hello, everyone. Hey there. Welcome to the Gyro Step Podcast Network NBA Finals live pregame show. We are here. We are very excited. I still can't believe the Bucks are in the NBA Finals, but they are, and we are here to cover it. This is our first live stream here on YouTube. So if there are any issues or anything that needs to be addressed, just let us know in the comments. Hopefully everything is good, though. I am Ty Windish, host of the Gyro Step Podcast here on the Gyro Step Podcast Network. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Rohan Kadi, and the two hosts of the Win in Six podcast, Adam McGee and Jordan Tresky. We are here to talk about Bucksopocalypse or whatever and everything else. Fellas, how's it going?
Doing
it's going
great.
Good.
Yeah. I got my pressed coconut water ready, so we're good.
Did they win the game when you had that last time?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
That was
That's after game
post.
6.
Mm-hmm. No, was it? I think it was after game 5.
It was game 5 because I was there and I missed the game 6 podcast, unfortunately. I got a Malcolm Brogdon jersey on, which I wouldn't go with. My go-to Bucks jersey is, of course, my Johnny O'Bryant Bucks jersey, Gyro Step legend. Although I realized I was wearing it when I went to game 1 against Atlanta. So the same way I won't go back to Fiserv, not going to pull that one out again for the postseason. So we're going to have to look at all the other jersey options here. But fellas,
can we talk jerseys for a second?
Yeah, let's talk jerseys for a second. What's on your mind?
I had 2 Bucks jersey choices I weighed up. And ultimately, I decided it was best not to go that route. So I could have worn a Jabari Parker Bucks jersey, which, game in Phoenix,
Ooh,
not a good idea.
Oh my goodness.
Not bringing the right energy. And if that wasn't bad enough, the other option was, of course, the infamous Grievous Vasquez jersey.
Marcus Johnson has been wondering about his whereabouts. So maybe if you ever meet Marcus, you can strike up a convo. You're wondering where he is. I've got his jersey. I can at least show you where a Grievous Vasquez jersey is, if not the man himself.
I'm pretty sure only Grievous Vasquez and I own Grievous Vasquez Bucks jerseys at this point. But no,
don't discount
no
Grievous
right
with the rest of his family. Come on, I'm sure he gave some to some of his friends, maybe.
I gotta guess they're wearing Raptors Vasquez jerseys.
Yeah.
Just a guess.
How about someone who's shimmied?
Well,
he didn't do so much of that in Milwaukee.
He didn't do a whole more
he just
limping than shimmying.
Why are we talking about Grievous Vasquez?
That's how we lead up the
NBA Finals. What else do we talk about?
Okay. Let's talk about the finals themselves. And we don't want to dig in too deep. We did 2 lengthy podcasts about the finals in the last couple days. So listen to those on 4x speed if you want to get through. If you haven't already, before tip, while listening to this too. But I guess you can check them out after the game too as well. But I just want general vibe checks here. I mean, I want to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks on the show, of course, that we're here because, a lot of networks probably aren't going to do that. So we wanted to. But how is everyone feeling? I'll start with Rohan. I think you went viral for some of your vibes throughout the postseason. Some very serious. Also, just the face. I think, was it you reacting to my Pat C jersey in the rafters take? Your vibes are famous/infamous. How are you feeling?
Meme legend.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that is from you, Adam.
Yep.
It is. I don't know what to say to that, but it's a thing that exists. So, sure. But as for game 1, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good because there is the potential of a Giannis return, which we'll get into. It's just game 1 of the NBA Finals. The vibes are high. You're not behind in the series. You're not ahead of in the series. It's just a blank slate. And you can do anything with it. And it's for the Milwaukee Bucks to choose. So that's how I'm feeling pre-game 1. I almost said post-game 1. I'm so used to saying post.
Jordan?
I'm uncertain. I mean, this is new. This is a new thing. In my lifetime and the lifetimes of many Bucks fans, we've seen the Bucks play in conference finals before. We have never seen them play in the NBA Finals before. The other thing too is that between the two teams, Jay Crowder is the only player that's played in the finals, correct?
Yep.
Like, this is pretty uncharted territory for like not just fans of the Bucks, but like both teams in general, save for Jay Crowder. Like, it's just it could just go in so many different directions. I can't even remember like a finals that when I've been watching the NBA and I've had my periods of been in and out of basketball, like that I could say that about. Like it's very, it's fitting the season, I should say.
I'm feeling good. I mean, maybe they're famous last words. There's still a lot up in the air. Some very obvious and notable things that we'll get to in a moment. But I'm generally feeling good. I watched not quite all, but a lot of the 2 regular season games with the Suns today. And there's some stuff in there that's definitely best forgotten forever. I also thought there was some pretty encouraging details in there. It's not scary is really where I'm going with this. Like, the Suns are a really good team, but I think the Bucks have all that they need to hang with them. My overall kind of feeling, my belief with this series is it's just going to be really close. These are 2 really good defensive teams. They're 2 teams that are both prone to kind of stumbling offensively from time to time. I think it's very possible that there's kind of blowouts both ways, and there's, a couple of really ugly grinded out games that are very much up for grabs. And when you talk about all of that, it kind of just paints a picture of the kind of series, the kind of matchups that the Bucks have already come through. And I feel pretty good. Like, I think this is an unbelievably close series. Hopefully it's going to be a lot of fun. But I don't feel as downbeat as, if I was just kind of taking the temperature of a lot of national predictions as I might be. I think there's a lot here to feel good about. And obviously seeing the 2-time MVP take to the court for warm-ups and look pretty spry only makes it all that more encouraging.
We are officially on Giannis watch, of course. Here, by the way, we will let you know live as soon as we know anything. Probably the same point. A lot of people will know something. I think pretty much everyone knows how to have Twitter notifications on, but we will let you all know and react live as we find out anything on Giannis. My watch buzzed right as I said that. I thought it was perfect timing. Not quite yet. I feel pretty good too. You know what's funny is
that a literal Giannis watch? Is that what I'm?
No.
When you said we were on Giannis watch, I didn't think we need to take that literal.
Jordan, don't do that. We're not. We need them to send the bag first. Tiso, if you're listening,
please do.
Please,
I would love a Tiso watch
for sure. Is it weird though that like I almost feel better that the Bucks aren't favored at this point? Like, it almost feels freeing in a way. Like, I obviously would still be devastated if they lost. I still very much want them to win, but it's nice to know, like, and I don't think this matters for the team at all. I feel like they're so locked in. They're dogs. We know this by now, but it's nice that it's not like, oh, how are the Bucks going to blow it this time? Like, with Giannis' status where it is and how good the Suns are and how arduous the Bucks' path has been already. No Dante. It's like, I don't want to say found money. Again, I don't want to make it sound like I don't appreciate how rare these opportunities are, or that I would, again, no joy at all if they lose. I wouldn't say, oh, shucks, at least it was a great year, even though it is. But it's like nice to not have the narrative be like, well, if the Bucks don't win, they're terrible. Like, it's nice that we're here, and I think a lot of people, at least rational people, are looking at the series as, it's going to be a good series, and whoever wins is the rightful winner, assuming Giannis is mostly healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a few years since the Bucks haven't had that kind of narrative baggage on their shoulders. And it's also nice to have the Suns with them as their dance partner for these finals, because you don't have another franchise like, say, if this was the Lakers, where the narratives are shaped in a very different way and it's loaded in a different way. As much as I think the Suns are favored, and deservedly so, I'm not going to dispute that. I think it's close, but fair enough. If the Suns are the favorite, the Suns are the favorite. To have another team who isn't here every year, who doesn't have, the big market, although Phoenix is a very big market, they don't have the usual energy that comes with that. So for the Bucks, you're right, it's not quite a free hit. You certainly can't take it that way. but it's kind of as close to the ideal scenario, I think, as you could get for them to get to the finals. Who are you playing? What is everything around it? Even, let's cross our fingers, hope Giannis is good to go and he proves to be healthy throughout the series. If that's the case, like, as much as it's brought scrutiny in the lead up to this, it hasn't brought pressure. If anything, it's taken a lot of the pressure off the team. So it's certainly a kind of an interesting way for him to come into the finals.
Especially when, like, the topic of, like, the Bucks not being the favorites. I mean, they came out of the net series, or entered the net series and came out of the net series on top, despite being not taken as the favorites by a long shot, if I remember correctly. Like, that was still, like, when we didn't know what was going on with Harden and when he would return, but, like, it was still like we were anticipating a fully healthy squad. Actually, no, I have that wrong. He did play against in the first round. And forget, the Celtics. Yeah, but, like, after you go through that kind of experience where you're not, thought of as the go-to team, the pressure's on the Nets after making this huge trade, after making this super team, if you will. Like, I do think there is something to, like, the Bucks are playing with found money, but they also are coming out of the last 2 years where they were in the Nets position, not, as glitzy of star power and all that stuff, but, like, they know what it's like to be at the top and thought of as you're going to go make it out of the East, and that having, been crumbled the last 2 years to where we are now, where you have the kind of right mixture of energy, toughness, and kind of just, like, not to keep harping on this, but the underdog nature of, like, guys like Tucker, Portis, even, the core pieces of the Bucks foundation. Like, that's always going to be associated with Giannis and Chris to a certain extent, even if they are as good as they are. You know what I mean? Drew to same too. So I think it's kind of like they're playing both sides of it in a weird way. And obviously, as we see through this series, it's going to make for an interesting kind of narrative in that sense.
Yeah, it's sort of like they've reached the mountaintop that they've been wanting to climb, but also, like, they've been saying, like, job's not finished. Even PJ Tucker in the locker room post Game 6 was like, a lot of people have champagne and stuff like that. I'm not getting the quote exactly right here, but we know that there's still 4 more games out there to win. They're sort of blending that mentality of, oh, we're here. This is what we wanted to accomplish. Like, we wanted to get to this point, but also, like, why stop here? You're here. Might as well go win the thing,
Win the damn thing. So we got some good comments in chat so far. Now we got questions rolling in. So I definitely want to get to some of the questions. Shout out to Devontae, who said, been a long time listener. Nice to put faces with the voices. We're glad to do that. X Reva's got their lucky Diakite jersey on. That's got to be a somewhat rare find, although we all know Diakite is beloved.
We did?
Chris Haynes.
Giannis playing
tonight.
Giannis Antetokounmpo is playing in this game. So our first question from Aditya, hopefully I pronounced that right, was Aditya. Did I get it this second? Okay. I was close, I think, the first time. But can we overanalyze the Giannis warm-up video and talk about how he's gonna average 70? Now we can. He is playing.
I think he looks good. I think he'll play.
Hot take from Adam McGee. Listen, I'm excited. I think it's safe enough. I don't think they would let him play if it wasn't, because I've seen this take from a lot of people, and it's true. This is probably the least vital game of the series, right? Like, you need to get one in Phoenix at some point if you can defend home court and Fiserv. Just has to, one of the first two is all you need for an excellent start to the series, and they're not out of it if they lose both of the first two. Like, if this was Game 7 against the Hawks, maybe I'm a little more worried that, like, okay, this is literally obviously the season. He's going to go no matter what. I think if there was a real risk to him playing, a real certifiable risk that's not going to change, over the next couple days, I think you could talk him down and say, listen, Game 1, it's great if we win. Maybe the fellas come through. But if you show up Game 2 and we win that game, we're in basically equally as good position. So eager to hear from everyone else, but I'm going to choose to be excited. I'm going to choose to not be a worrywart. Giannis is a superhuman. I think he's ready. I'm excited that he's going to play, even if he's not going at his usual minutes load.
Did anyone really think he wasn't going to play? I mean, among us, I've seen a lot of this from, I don't even want to say nationally, but I mean other fan bases. I'm not talking about the Suns even, just generally kind of people around the NBA. I guess it's understandable. The injury was, pretty horrendous to look at. It did not look good.
Literally happened a week ago.
It's crazy. He is not human. But I think as it's progressed, all of the reports that have come out, seeing how he's carried himself, seeing the way the Bucks have hyped this up on social media, the video yesterday of him on the way to the plane where you're just recording Giannis, I don't think you're doing that if it's like, oh, he's definitely out. I just don't. I think someone's tipping you on the shoulder and being like, yeah, don't do that. And that someone might be Giannis. We saw him telling the camera to get out of his face post the conference finals win. So I've always felt he was going to play. I mean, the questions now are going to be, how long? Is there a minutes restriction? How does he look? Is he going to be as aggressive? Are we, and I really hope not, going to see him settling for a lot of jumpers and a lot of trees? Because one of the keys to this series is DeAndre Ayton defends him pretty well. At the same time, the first game these two teams played, one, Giannis went off. Two, he got Ayton in foul trouble. Like Ayton finished the game with 5 fouls.
To that point, no one fouled Giannis more than Ayton this year.
Like, I think that's something that hasn't really been talked a whole lot in a lot of the kind of preview content of this series, because where that might be most important is if the Bucks can get Ayton in foul trouble, the Suns do not have a rebounder. And we've seen just how the Bucks have managed to beat other teams, behind their offensive rebounding.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a real game changer. So if Giannis is as healthy as we hope he is going to look, like immediately it just changes the dynamics. It takes away something potentially that the Suns, rightfully are viewing as crucial to their chances of winning a championship.
Just quickly wanted to hop in. I think it was Sam Cooper on the Gyro Step, the timeline preview pod, which was excellent. I think that one, both of our pods, really, your guys was a mailbag that covered so many things I'm still just digging into, but it's going to have shelf life after game one. So check that out if you haven't already. Both of those episodes this week on the Gyro Step Podcast Network feed. But I think it was Sam who said, listen, if you get Ayton in foul trouble, that could lose the Suns the series. Because you're exactly right, Adam. It's like they're bringing in Frank Kaminsky or Dario Saric, who, Saric is a playmaker. Kaminsky can shoot, but Ayton has been their most consistent player over at least the latter rounds of the playoffs. Probably their best player in the Clippers series, which was wild considering the Clippers tried to put him in the torture chamber. They put Rudy Gobert in. Just didn't work. Turns out center Nick Batum is not beating everybody. It's just beating the Utah Jazz. So yeah, I think that's a great point, Adam, about Giannis potentially getting some fouls on DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, and I think to a certain extent, Brook Lopez, depending on how we see Giannis's minutes restriction, if there is one in place, like God hope that there is kind of one in place. But like to the point of like, what do we see from Giannis tonight? Like the fact that he had no structural damage in his knee kind of makes us even more like there's so much gray. I mean, Adam and I were talking about this before the game. Like there's so much gray area with like where and how are they going to like manage his time, his minutes, all that stuff. And you could say like, oh, like it's not like a Kevin Durant situation in the lead up to that. He had a calf strain. He had, that's hard to come back from when you're playing a gauntlet in the playoffs, all that stuff. And the Warriors needed him at that point to finish out that series. They obviously didn't. But like, because Giannis technically didn't get, serious damage, like he could force his way into saying like, I'm going to play this many minutes if the situation allows it. And that's where you kind of get a little it's hard not to get nervous with how they're going to manage his time, honestly.
Didn't you mentioned calf strain? Sorry, but wasn't that what Giannis had like a week ago?
Was it tightness or was it a strain?
I think it was tightness.
Okay. Just I got uncomfortable suddenly when you said that, but that's something I think we touched on. It might have been after the conference finals, which is a bigger concern. Once it came back with no structural damage, may have been like what he was carrying beforehand, and just how that carries over if it hasn't fully healed. Now, maybe there's been a chance to kind of rest up because of the hyperextension, and a lot of the problems can kind of subside. But there are other elements too that will be worth watching that kind of predate the big scare that we all got.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be like a hard minutes restriction just because of the context, and they're not going to play him unless they think they can play him in a usable fashion, right? They don't want like a Giannis that they can't really use and he can't really like be himself.
Decoy Giannis.
Yeah, that's not going to fly. Like
Yeah.
Giannis isn't playing if he's not doing that. He's not going to adjust his game in any way. He's going to try out there and be Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like that's what's going to happen. We have who said this in the chat? Someone said they think he's going to play 20 minutes max unless the game is super close down the stretch. I disagree. I feel like he's going to play over 20 minutes, and if the game gets out of hand, like he's out of there as soon as it's out of hand. Like he's gone.
Yeah.
Like he's pulled right away.
When the Bucks are up 40.
Yes, exactly. But I doubt there's going to be like a hard minutes restriction. That's just impossible given the circumstances.
But do you expect closer to 30 than 40?
Yes, probably 30 than 40. You got to be a little more cautious. But I don't know, man. It's such a tricky situation.
Adam, what was your reaction there?
I mean, just like there's nothing to base this on other than us just rambling about it and feel for this and what Bud will do. I kind of see 35, 36. I think slightly closer to 40. I don't think can go over 40. Going over 40 is a problem for Giannis at the best of times. We know this. He certainly improves in that department in these playoffs, but now would not be the time to test him on that. But I think we could see something pretty close to, his regular season run. And if we're not seeing that, I then would have some questions, because that's not going to be enough. If he was fully healthy and he was playing 36 minutes in a game like this, we know everyone would be in complete and utter meltdown, and rightfully so, being like it's the NBA Finals. Yeah. So if he can't even get to that, they may be pushing it just a little bit too early. I just don't feel like they would do that. I don't think he would do that. I'm hoping and somewhat optimistic that he's ready, and we will see more from him than I think a lot of people expect anyway.
I want to blaze through some chat questions here. There's so much conversation about Giannis. I think the tough part is, though, we just don't know much. We know he's playing. We know he's going to give it his all when he's out there. I think there's no question about that. And he's starting, which makes sense. Good addition, Rohan. The one thing I don't want to see, and I think this point was already made, don't settle for a lot of jumpers. If you're going to do that, and that's where you're at, like, play make from the post, roll, even if you have to roll slowly. Giannis isn't exactly the greatest roller on earth anyway. Not a lot of threes. Don't try to play the James Harden game, which didn't even work for him for most of that series. Like, that would be not what I want to see. The question was asked, I think ex-Reva, if I still want Patty C's jersey retired if the Bucks win it all. Yes, and before you come back to me and say, but what about this player? But what about this player? I am the call an ambulance, but not for me meme. Like, sure, retire them all. I don't care. It's a Bucks championship. They haven't been to the finals in 47 years. There's 100 numbers.
Hold on. If you're now retire them all, guy.
Not literally.
So? But Brian Winters says he didn't win a championship, so no very good player who's very good for quite a while can have their jersey retired because they didn't win a championship. But if you're on a championship team, Ty's like, put it up there. I want to talk about this. I'm glad the question was asked, because I did listen to your great crossover podcast, and I loved hearing the perspective of another fan base being like, what? You want to retire Pat Connaughton's number? Is this a real thing? And you backtracked, Ty. You backtracked.
Yeah, I did. Listen, did I get caught up in the moment? Yes. Would I be supportive if they did it? Also, yes. It's not that serious to me. If you count 0 and 00, there's 101 single or double digit or single digit NBA numbers. The Bucks have retired, I think, 9 so far. If they retire 6, 7 more, fine. Throw Bobby in there. Who cares? You're
not worried about running out of numbers? Is your literal explanation for retiring Pat's jersey?
Not at all. The Celtics are going to add triple digits at some point. That's clearly going to be on the agenda eventually in the future if the planet doesn't, by then. So cross that bridge when you come to it. We have bigger issues.
Bucks ellipse.
The Bucks ellipse on the horizon. The chat is crediting you with breaking Giannis is playing Adam, so congrats
Oh,
to that.
okay. I didn't know I did that, but I'll take all the credit.
You did on here. You did on here. Andrew Snyder says, make it like when the Hawks starting 5-1 player of the month. Retire one jersey for all of them. Just stick them all on one horrible jersey. The Orlando Magic retired 6 for their 6th man, a.k.a. the fans. Still, I think their only retired jersey, so it could be worse than Pat Connaughton, people. There are worse ways to retire a number.
I believe the Heat also retired Michael Jordan's
Yeah,
number
they did.
Just
Yes,
because.
they did.
without
Still one
him
of
playing.
the most inexplicable things of all time. Nicholas asked, can we follow our rightful leader, nihilist_Bucks? Not sure about rightful leader, but and unretire Kareem's number until he can actually say Giannis Antetokounmpo. I do not subscribe to that, but I did want to talk about Kareem anyway, because obviously caught a lot of
Hell
flack.
yeah.
Caught a lot of flack for saying the Bucks could not win a championship right before they beat Kevin Durant in his house to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then, of course, without the Bucks' best player, win 2 games, including one on the road, to go to the NBA Finals. Now Kareem has been forced to change his mind. Adam, you said hell yeah. What are your Kareem Abdul-Jabbar thoughts?
I just love how weird this whole thing is. I love that he basically came on Twitter to apologize. He must have heard word that, Bucks fans were mad. And I wonder, has he missed out on that for, a long time? Because a lot of Bucks fans have been mad at Kareem for, in the region of 40 years now. But yeah, I just Bucks ellipse. Is it supposed to be eclipse? Is it supposed to be apocalypse?
Oh, I didn't even think of eclipse. Oh, God.
It's
Yeah,
definitely apocalypse.
I'm going with
Yeah.
apocalypse. Kareem just wants the Bucks to win, and in doing so, to block out the sun for good. And when Kareem makes a demand, as Milwaukee fans know,
Yep. Are we talking about Kareem Abdul-Drummond? Is that what we're talking about right now?
I would rather have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar suit up for the Bucks in this game 1 than Kareem Abdul-Drummond, the 50 so years of age put aside.
We saw what that looked like against the Suns, and it did not look good for the Lakers.
Hey, he's just waiting for the right opportunity. Starting center for the Lakers isn't enough. He's just, he's got to play.
He said on Instagram he could dominate like Brook Lopez has if they played the same minutes per game this postseason.
Wow.
I just love that Brook Lopez is in the conversation. That honestly makes me so happy. Some Lakers
Yeah, he
fan
said
commented.
That was like
Eight.
when
They put
Cade
Lopez at
Cunningham
8, yeah.
said that he, like, one of the players that he, like, looks towards their game is Chris Middleton. And that was like, hey, there we go. There we go.
It's nice. And you know what? One of the cool things about the finals is I think there's going to be more people, younger especially, coming into the league talking and thinking about Chris Middleton. Like, this is the kind of stage and the kind of thing you don't really realize until you're here. Like, especially early in the series as Giannis probably gets his legs back under him. I mean, a lot of people are going to see a lot of Chris Middleton that still haven't yet, right? And we all know not enough people appreciate Chris, everything else. I think the tide's on that starting to turn. Now, some national shows maybe appreciate Chris too much, but it is cool to see someone like Cade talk about that and think about, all the kids that are going to be watching Chris Middleton and thinking about his game. I'm just so happy for Chris. If everyone couldn't tell, I'm happy for everyone on the team, but especially Chris, man.
and Pat, you're happy for Pat.
Yeah.
Clearly happy for Pat. He has number retiring legacy on the line here. We got a lot of chat just overwhelmed with how good Giannis looks in pregame. I agree. It's been awesome to see. Another question from GBD Man. This is on the Giannis news. How does this affect Bobby minutes? Which I think that is a good question and one that's top of mind. A cult hero, Bobby Portis. Let's hear from the cult leader, Rohan.
Yes.
What do you think about Bobby Portis'
See,
minutes?
the thing is, like, why am I the leader of
You're
this?
just
Just because
you're
I
just-
pointed out?
It's bit canon now, Rohan. You just need to lean in.
Sure, whatever. In terms of Bobby Portis' minutes, obviously they're going to be reduced than they were the last couple games. He's not a starter anymore, and the guy in front of him is Giannis, so his minutes are going to be reduced. I do not think that they will be like he's definitely going to play, especially early on in the series. It's not going to be full late stages against Brooklyn where he's just not playing at all. I think he will have a role and will play in this series, especially if you want to keep Giannis's minutes down as much as you can. you got to play Bobby Portis. If you want to sort of size up and sort of weaponize your size, you just got to play Bobby. Like if you want to play Bobby and PJ and Brooke or Giannis, just like any other combinations of those, you just got to play Bobby. Bobby's got to be an integral part of that because he's one of the only guys there that can get their own shot. Well, mostly I'm just talking about PJ Tucker. Like he's not going to go out there and get you, a shot on his own. So Bobby Portis is that guy. And he can survive in certain defensive matchups. We've talked about that at length before. It's just, he's going to see reduced load, I think, but it's not going to be anything super, super significant.
I think it's an interesting kind of blend or kind of comparison because he's not like Dario Saric in how kind of we view him, but they're very similar in what they bring to both of their teams, if that makes sense. And like Adam and I talked about this on Winning Six, and I know you guys probably talked about on the Finals Preview pod, but like both teams are very similar in how they play defense, and we're going to see a lot of drop and just kind of how it'll be interesting how both teams kind of play off of that and see who gets the better of the other in that way. But like if you're going to attack as much as Chris Paul and Devin Booker are going to attack a guy like Bobby Portis, especially if he's playing kind of that center type role, if whether it's drop or he's blitzing or trap, whatever it is, like they could easily go on the other end and kind of get more pick and pops because we've seen his shooting is held up largely throughout the postseason versus say someone like Brooke or even, not even think of another like front court player at the Bucks that gives that kind of shooting punch. Like it's going to be an interesting bellwether to see which bench, shows up in this series because we talked about it a lot. Like the Bucks are down to 8 guys at this point. Now with Giannis back in play, it's good. He set the last 2 games especially.
It's very much going to be TBD based on scheme first and foremost. So it is okay. Are they going to drop? If they are going to drop and they find some success dropping early, well, then you should really be cutting back Bobby's minutes if Giannis is good to play more. But then, obviously, we don't know how many minutes Giannis will be cleared to play, how he'll hold up as the game goes on. If they do decide to switch, then there's also the question mark of, okay, I think among the 4 of us, we're all believers in Brooks' ability to hold his own if he finds himself switching out there. But if Brooke ends up on an island over and over again against Devin Booker and against Chris Paul, and it's not working, well, then again, that's another spot where you're going to find minutes for Bobby. So I think there's a lot of scenarios where there's going to be plenty of playing time for Bobby. It's just hard to see exactly which way it's going to come about right now.
We got back-to-back questions. One from Joe R. Will Bryn make threes? And one again from GBD Man. Prediction on which Sun goes 7 for 10 from 3 and which Buck goes 1 for 7. That I think are kind of hitting at the same issue. And I want to tie that back to the Bobby question. Is there any way the Bucks can just field a rotation against this team? And I think matchup-wise, I think evenly matched is a good way to put it for the finals in general. But I think size-wise, they're such different teams, right? The Bucks are so big, especially at this point without Dante. Their playable guys are huge. Is there any way you can siphon the scant Bryn and sort of Teague minutes to Bobby and just be that much bigger against this team? I think against a lot of teams, the answer is yes. I think against Phoenix, it gets trickier, though. Although, honestly, like, is Portis going to be any worse than Forbes at defense, no matter what the situation is? Like, I don't know. If maybe I think you try Forbes and you hope that he comes alive again. I think you kind of just have to. But on the other hand, I think you could talk me into trying to go bigger, even though it doesn't look ideal if you're going bigger at the expense of Bryn Forbes minutes.
Do you mean jumbo books? Do you mean like PJ, Giannis, Bobby, Brooke?
John Hammond's looking at this like, if only.
Play Chris while Drew sits and just full on jumbo books?
Yeah.
That one game in Utah.
Yeah, it's like
sir.
Bobby gets the chance to do what Mirotic couldn't.
Oh, God. Why does he always come up?
He does.
A fateful punch.
On the Suns part of this question, do you all know whose birthday it is today?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Jay Crowder.
Marquette legend.
Yes, sir.
Way to go,
I'm not going to
Ron.
say anything to tempt fate. I'll just keep my thoughts to myself, and we can talk about them on the pod later.
Yeah. Not great.
I'm not getting blamed. Is really what I'm saying.
So basically, to answer GVD Man's question, Adam, you're saying Jay Crowder is going 7 of 10 on threes.
I'm not saying what I'm not
and
saying.
now Rohan should get blamed, but for some reason I will get blamed. Everyone at Ty Windich, your fault that blank hit all these threes. I was gonna say expletive. I don't know why. That boss man 9-9 hit all these threes.
Undercover boss man.
Undercover.
Oh my goodness.
In watching the regular season games, Bryn Forbes shot the ball pretty well against the Suns. Now that is probably
He shot
just
the ball
regular
very well
season
in the
Bryn
regular
Forbes.
season
Exactly.
overall.
And also Jeff Teague was pretty good in the second game.
So actually, I want to talk about Teague. Throw it to Jordan
that's
first.
right, yeah.
Do you obviously the Teague experience in Game 6 was beautiful. I wasn't on the pod. I did watch the whole game. It was beautiful. Like, I was happy. People were tweeting me like, "Oh, he couldn't play." Listen, I'm glad to be proved wrong. He was awesome. The way he yelled after the second three, I was like, "Fuck yeah, Jeff Teague!" Like, I'm so happy you're experiencing this. That's how I feel too. Do you think Teague at one will get run? I think we all probably could just nod our heads right away. At least exploratory run. But should he, and how do you feel about Teague's potential? Because you watch someone like Cameron Payne become an impact player. You know, Phoenix likes to go small. They had that potential 3-guard lineup. What are your thoughts on Teague heading in?
I have no idea. It's as much of a coin flip, not to keep referring to that in the Bucks Sun series.
Those have
But,
worked
like,
out for us before.
Yeah, is T going to show up? Is Bryn going to show up? Like, these minimal role players at this stage, it's a big old shrug. Like, you don't know. Like, the fact that I think Jeff Teague scored all of his points in Game 6 throughout the Hawks series, right? Those all his points that series. Like,
Pretty sure.
and for that to be the difference of Game 6, like, is in itself just like kind of, I don't know, the Jeff Teague experience. Like, it just sums up the Jeff Teague experience. I mean, at this point, you're gonna see him play. I don't know if it's gonna be good. I don't know. Like, I'm just like genuinely scared. Especially, like, we were talking about this yesterday. These, like, Crowder, Mikal Bridges. Who's the other one? I'm already forgetting. Another 3-and-D player that's
Cam Johnson.
Torrey Craig.
Torrey Craig, yes, that the Bucks gave up. I'm clearly
Don't forget
ready for this
Torrey
series.
Craig. I would be afraid of forgetting about him.
There's just they have, like, good perimeter defenders that are going to make life tough for guys like Drew, Chris, obviously Giannis coming back into it. You're going to need a little bit more ball handling, and you're playing with fire when it's Jeff Teague. I don't know.
I see there in the chat the questions being asked.
Yeah.
Will I coin another Jeff Teague game?
You're minting these things. You're hard.
I'm the kind of
factory.
guy that, you know, when you win the big bet, I take the chips and I go and cash them in. And I won my big bet. We got one Teague game. That's what I promised. I'm not gonna go pushing for too much more. What I will say about Teague, and it applies to Forbes too, the Bucks just need one of those guys.
Yep.
If you can get one of those guys each time, and if you can be quick enough, if you're Bud, to be like, okay, this guy doesn't have it tonight, but